Going. This is Power Apps co-authoring feature and how does it change the game for app makers. Before we dive into the actual content, let's thank our sponsors. Without these organizations, we wouldn't be here. 2 days full of great content, so it's valuable stuff they are doing. Yeah, more sponsors. And then a few words about me. My name is Terho Antila, Business Applications MVP from Finland. I am a developer, so I speak quite a few languages, such as C#, JavaScript, PowerFX, Python, C++, PHP, C, you name it. I also speak Finnish. Onko täällä suomea puhuvia muita? So let's stick to English then. Here you can see my contact info, LinkedIn profile. I have a blog at terhoantila.com, mostly Power Platform related posts there. I also have a GitHub account that contains, for example, a Gantt chart app implemented as a Canvas app that you can use to visualize your planner tasks in a Gantt chart. Check that out. So what's for the agenda today? First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about what version control actually is. And then we are gonna check out this new co-authoring feature that's still in preview, but it's gonna change your life if you are a Canvas maker and serious about developing Canvas apps. Then we'll take a look at some benefits and ideas that we can implement with this new feature, and the main part of this session we will be spending on looking at some demos. I will also call on my colleague from Finland at some point to join me on stage virtually, so let's see how that goes out. But let's take a look at the basic concepts and terminology about version control. So Dave Braunschweig from Rebus community puts it pretty well, I think. Version control is management of changes to documents, computer programs, large websites, and other collections of information. Each revision is associated with a timestamp and the person making the change. Revisions can be compared, restored, and with some types of files merged. And this is the whole concept of version control, and that is the concept that this co-authoring feature uses. So we get all those benefits out of it. And the most popular version control system used these days is Git. So let's take a look at some of the key terms of Git version control. First of all, we have a repository. It's like a container for all the stuff you want to store in the version control. Then a repository always has at least one branch. You can have multiple branches. Often you want to have a development branch, test branch, and production branch. You can also have branches for different releases or hotfixes or whatnot. When you do your stuff locally on your computer and you're ready to, you're happy with your work and you're ready to share your work with other developers, you need to make a commit to the repository. And if you are working on a branch and that branch is now ready to be merged with some target branch, then you will be doing the merging, and that's the merge operation. There are also a bunch of other terminology related to Git version control, but this whole co-authoring feature of Power Apps Canvas apps pretty much takes care of that stuff. We don't have to discuss too much in detail about push, pull, and clone. That happens under the hood. So, what about Canvas apps and Git integration? What's the motivation behind that? Well, how many of you have seen a screen similar to this when you have been working with Canvas apps? So this happens if you are editing one single app and someone else is trying to edit that same app. The maker that tries to edit it later will be prompted with a dialog similar to this. The app is locked for editing by someone else and you can't edit it. You have to wait. And maybe you have to ping the person that, hey, can you tell me when you're done so I can start editing it? Not very effective way if you have a team of developers or makers who are supposed to work on the same app. But thankfully, with this new feature, this scenario is getting outdated. And we have this new cool co-authoring experience with Canvas apps that will change the game quite dramatically. So basically, this is how it works. We have, in this scenario, on the slide, we have two makers, maker 1 and maker 2. And now they are utilizing this co-authoring experience, and they are able to modify the same app simultaneously. Both are editing the app in their own Canvas Studio. In fact, they can be editing the app in the same environment, so it is the same app, or they can use their own development environments and have their own instances of the app, and those instances are just connected to each other via the Git repository. Either way, whenever one of the makers makes a change to the app and saves the app, the changes are pushed to the Git repository. And the latest version of that app is taken for that maker and visualized. So whenever you save, you publish your changes, and you also get refreshed with the latest content of the app. So this way, these two makers stay in sync with the app. And you know, when you save your Canvas app, you are provided with a text field where you can leave a comment. So that's really important in this new scenario, because that comment will be visible in the repository, in the version history of the app. So whatever you type into that text box will be your commit message in the repository. So it's important that it is descriptive, the comment, and that you actually provide it. Later on, it's a lot easier to track what has been changed if you have meaningful comments there. So now we have entered the happy place. Before we go into demos, let's consider some of the benefits and ideas that this new concept enables us to do. Well, of course, like said, maybe 5 times already, now multiple developers are able to work on the same app at the same time. So you can get things done a lot faster because you don't have to wait for one developer to finish his work, after which you can continue. You can do it at the same time. Of course, when you do work on the same app at the same time, I would advise not to work on the same controls on the app at the same time, because then you get conflicts, and then it gets a little bit hard to resolve those. You get ability to compare changes between different versions of the app. I will demonstrate that too soon. So it's really nice. You can look at the source code of your Canvas app and see what has been changed by some other developer. In addition to what has been changed, you can of course see who has made the change and when was it made. And quite important thing, each version of the app gets persisted in the repository forever. So you can go back in history for like 2 years and restore that version of the app if you wish to. This is not possible without this feature, because I think now Canvas apps stores like version history 6 months back or something. And very interesting point is that you can use other tools now as well to edit the app, because we have the source code in the Git repository. It's plain text files that you can edit. You can use VS Code, or you can build your own Canvas editor to edit those files if you want to. So that opens up quite many interesting possibilities, for example, to automate things. Speaking of automation, build process can now be used as part of your DevOps process. I will demonstrate you one of the pipelines I've built where we actually modify the files automatically in a DevOps pipeline and package the app and publish it to another environment. And with this feature, there are also new open sourcing possibilities. For example, the Gantt chart I mentioned, it's now open sourced, so that my version of the app that I'm working on is connected to GitHub repository, and you can fork that repository for yourself and make modifications to that with your own Canvas studio. And when you're happy with that, you can create a pull request, and then I can evaluate your changes and decide whether your changes will be part of that Gantt chart app or not. Probably they will be. And final word before the demos, this is still experimental feature, so keep that in mind when you're considering using it in customer case or some other production scenario. So let's jump to demos then. Let me open my browser. So first I'll create a blank Canvas app and connect it to the Git repository so that you can see how it's done. So let's create a new app. Call it Scottish Summit Demo. Let's make it a phone factor, create it. Let's add a label. Why is it always a label in demos? Let's give it a text title. And let's make saving. No, actually, let's rename it. It's really important with this co-authoring feature that you rename your controls as soon as possible. When you drop them on the canvas, just do the renaming, because that makes the risk of conflicts a lot smaller. So now that's renamed. We can go and save this. Save it to the cloud. And then we can turn on the co-authoring feature, which means that we need to go to the settings and click on the upcoming features and experimental tab, and almost all the way to the bottom we have this show the Git version controls setting. Let's turn that on, and now we have fifth menu option visible on the left. And let's click on that. To use Git version control for this app, you need to connect to a Git repository. So let's connect. Now it is asking for the repository URL. So let's go ahead and create a new repository. Let's call it Scottish Summit 2022 Demo. And create. Okay, it's created. Now I need the URL. I can just copy this and jump back to the Canvas Studio and paste the URL here. Now, for the branch, I could use out-of-the-box main branch that was created along with the repository, but I can also give any branch name here, and then I'm prompted that whether I want to create that branch because it doesn't yet exist. So let's create it. Friday session. And the same goes with the directory. So this integration will create a directory into that repository under which it handles all the files of this app. So let's call this like demo directory and apply. Now I need to log in to my Azure DevOps repository. I am using username Terho Antila at cloud-driven.fi, which is my work email, but the password is not your company account password. You need to create a personal access token and then provide that here. So let's see how that is done. You can create that path token under user settings. Here you have personal access tokens option. I'll control click it so that it's opened in another tab. And here we can create new token. So let's do it. Give it any name, descriptive, preferably. How long you want it to be valid. 30 days is enough. And the scopes for the token need to be under code section read and write. By selecting that, this token is allowed to read and write code to the repository. So let's create it then. Okay, and then I will leave this window open here because I need this token every now and then. I can just now copy it to the clipboard, go back to the Canvas Studio, and paste that new token here in the password field. And now let's sign in and hope that everything works. It should be now prompting the branch. Do I want to create the branch because it was not found? Yes. I don't know what happens if I click no. I've never done that. But it's an experimental feature, so probably nothing good will happen. And the same with the directory. Do I want to create that directory? Yes. Okay, now it's doing the plumbing behind the scenes, and it's done. So if I now go back to the repository page, let's refresh this. And we need to change the branch. Here is the Friday session branch that the integration feature created for me. So let's go to that branch. And here we can see that we have this new demo directory visible. Let me actually open the cursor highlighter. So here is the demo directory. And this sort of file structure is what that integration created. And what's interesting for us is under the source folder. If we take a look at under the source folder, we can see these YAML files. These are the files that are most interesting to us. If I open one of those, so we have, for each screen, we have one YAML file here. Actually, if I let's create another screen. And let's call that screen 2, which is really bad name. And let's save it. So I will add comment added second screen. Now it's doing the saving, and it also pushed those changes to the repository. So if I refresh this page again, we can now see that we have, under the source folder, we have 2 YAML files, one for each screen. We also have an app-specific YAML file. So let's open that screen 1. And the content of the screen is really simple because we only dropped one label onto it. But like I said, one of the benefits of this new feature is that we can actually use, we don't have to rely on the Canvas Studio to be the only editor. We can edit these files. So let's edit it. So let's edit this file right within this DevOps repository editor. Let's change the text of that label. Let's say it's edited in DevOps and commit it. And now if we go back to this Canvas Studio. Let's open the screen 1. It's still showing me the old version. But let's refresh it. We have this new button here when we turn on the Git integration, which allows me to commit changes and check for Git updates. So now it is fetching the latest version from the source control. So let's click it. And you can see that the text of that title label is updated. Like that. Okay, let's take this demo a bit further yet. I will open another browser window here, and this is different user. It's not my work account anymore I'm using, and totally different tenant, totally different environment. Let's open the Terho Antila environment 2, and I will now create a new Canvas app in this environment, but I will connect that Canvas app to that same repository, same branch, same folder. And let's see what happens. So let's create a new Canvas app, form factor. Any name can be used here for this demo. Let's create it. And then we need to connect this app to the repo. So let's repeat what we did last time. Yeah, let's save it. Save it first and then turn on the co-authoring feature. So it was upcoming features, experimental tab, all the way down almost, and show the Git version control settings. Here we can connect, and then the repository URL, which we can get from here. Okay, I think it should be that one. And branch, now we need to provide the exact branch. So it was Friday session. Because otherwise it wants to create a new branch if I'm not using the same one. And same with the directory name. So let's use exactly the same directory name, which is demo directory. And if I misspelled something, now would be a good time to shout it out. So let's apply. Now the username again. Well, I'm now using the same account because I don't have alternate account. But this could be any user that has access to that repository and you have a PAT token for. Now I need that PAT token. I can use that the same I created. Let's just copy it again. Sign in and let's see what happens. There we go. So now this maker is able to use his own environment, own tenant. As long as he has access to that repository, these two makers can edit the same app via their own instances. All right. Let's go to the next demo. Let's get back here. And are you getting hungry? I am. So okay, so now I'm in my development environment and I have this Git demo app here. So I will switch to editing it. And since this is an app that I have created earlier, and it's already connected to Git repository, so that's why it's now asking for the credentials. I don't have to configure the integration again. And did I have the password? So now I'm editing the app. And now I am not like a very visual guy. I don't implement beautiful UIs, which shouldn't come as a surprise when you look at this. Especially this header now, I must say that this is not maybe perfect yet, but thankfully I have a colleague in Finland that we can call. Let's call. And now let's see the audio, what happens. Hello, Antti. Okay, we can't hear. Let's try to unblock that one. Can you speak now?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, well, I can hear you, but probably the audience can't hear you. But they can see you, so you can use maybe sign language or something. How do you like my new shirt?
Oh, it's awesome.
Exactly. So, you remember that app we have been working on? Since you are my designated UI designer, the header is kind of not there yet. So can you do something about that?
Yeah. How much time do I have?
Well, since it's low code, isn't 3 minutes enough?
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
Okay.
So ping me in Teams when you're done.
Okay.
I'll hang up now. That was Antti Jokinen, my colleague from Finland. And now we have the audio. Okay. Are you co-authoring my app as well?
No, just go fix your sound for your guidelines.
But I don't think I need the audio anymore.
No?
That was it, yeah. Thanks. All right. So while Antti is working on the app, let me show you something else. There are no chairs here for speakers, so let me. You can see this build label here on the bottom. What is it? This is a normal label in this app, but the text value of that label gets updated automatically whenever someone makes a commit to this branch. So there is an Azure DevOps pipeline behind the scenes that actually modifies that YAML file and edits that label text to match the current build number. And as you can see, the build number is year, month, date, and then a dot and incrementing number for that day. So let's take a look at how that is done, that pipeline. So I will switch to that other branch, which is called Power Apps Canvas Git Demo. That's the branch, that's the repository that this app is connected to, and dev branch. So pipelines here. Okay, nice. I have some failed pipelines as well, but there I have this update build version number in dev. This gets fired every time I save my Canvas app or Antti saves it. So let's take a look at how it's implemented. I think it was said in the description of this session that this is level 300. That's why I dare to show some YAML code to you, because this is what you wanted since you are sitting there. Okay, so this is triggered automatically whenever a commit is pushed to dev branch. And this simply, this task here simply calls a PowerShell script that makes the modification to that specific label text that shows the build number. I can show that script in a second or two. And then there is another task or step in this pipeline that makes the commit to the repository so that the modified label text gets updated in the repo. And now let's take a look at that script that actually makes the modification. So update build label PowerShell script. That's what that pipeline calls. So basically, this script takes the content of that master FX YAML file, which is a component in the Power App that contains the build label. And then it just replaces, using regex, it replaces the build number with the current build number. And then it writes that replacement content back to that same file. So simple script. But now the script is doing editing of the app. So we have three editors basically. We have me, Antti, and then this pipeline who is editing it. Okay. Antti is saying that OK, muutokset on sisässä, which means that he's done. So let's go back to that app now. Let's zoom out a little bit. And now I know that he has made his changes. I could make some changes here and then save it, but to keep things simple, I'll just use this refresh button. And let's keep your eye on the header of the app, because that's what I asked Antti to change. Let's see if he has delivered. Well, yeah, it looks a lot better. As you can see, we have nice Scottish Summit logo there and some background. Cool. Thank you. Looks awesome. Great. I have one more demo. It's also about the build pipelines because it's so nice to get things automated. So let me demonstrate this app a little further. Well, basically, this is just a demo app that I have, for example, some drag and drop demo here that I can demonstrate how you can implement drag and dropping without any code components in Canvas apps. But what I wanted to show is this little icon here next to the build number. If I click on that, I'm taking to a release notes screen. And in this development environment, in this app that is connected to the development branch, it always looks like this. So we always have release notes text in the title and release underscore comment, and we have release notes placeholder text always visible here when we are editing the app. But the idea is that I have a DevOps pipeline that works against test branch, and that pipeline updates the contents of this page so that in the test environment, which is the target environment, all users can go and take a look at the release notes and see what the developer has written there. And how it works is that here we have in Azure DevOps, we have this wiki, and that pipeline uses this wiki, so it takes the contents of this wiki page and puts that content into this release notes placeholder area. So now I can edit this wiki page and describe that 10th of June, more UI tuning, Antti implemented better header. As you can see from the earlier comments, I have been exploiting Antti's skills this year earlier as well. Okay, so now we're done with the release notes, and at this point I would need to make a merge from dev branch to test branch, but I'm not doing it. But if I were, I would use VS Code because it's a pretty handy tool for that, and I would do merging there. But let's imagine the merging is now done because I only have 7 minutes left, and I want to leave some time for questions as well. So merging is now done, and I want to deploy the app to the test environment. So I will go to my pipelines, and I will start this pipeline that has actually failure. So let's run it. And the branch is test. And I can provide release notes comment here as well. And this text here will go in this title area. So this will read release notes dash their release notes in SS2022 demo. And then let's just run it. And now the pipeline will do its magic, and it will take a while. We cannot see the end result, but we can take a look at my earlier end result. So let's take a quick look at that, and then I will walk through the pipeline on a slide that I have, so we are not gonna look at YAML again. So this is the app target environment, and that's the app. So let's play it and open that. I have run this pipeline yesterday, so we can see that we have yesterday's date as a build number. So let's click on that, and we can see that the pipeline has run, and it has fetched the text from that wiki page and inserted it on this screen in the app. So pretty cool from the governance perspective, for example. And let's now go through the pipeline steps. And I'm planning to publish that pipeline as in GitHub repository, so it's available for you all. So what it does, first of all, the pipeline calls a PowerShell script that replaces the release note screen's header label text with the text that was given when I started the pipeline. And then it calls another script that actually uses the wiki content of that DevOps repository of that specific page and reads that content and writes it to the label text of that screen. It also replaces some stuff in there because we need to have the headers bigger than normal text, and that's markdown text that Wiki uses, and it's not supported in Canvas app, so we have to use the HTML control and convert those markdown texts into HTML. Then, important thing is that we need to install Power Platform CLA on the agent that the pipeline is running, because we need that CLA to extract, to pack the source code of that Canvas app into MSAPP file. So we install the Power Platform CLA, and then we extract the solution where that Canvas app is contained in my development environment. We take that solution out and extract it, unpack it on the agent. Now we have unpacked version of that solution on the agent, and the next step is to pack the modified Canvas app source code files into MSAPP file and put that file into that solution folder on that agent. After which we can pack the solution and import the solution to the target environment. So not too many steps, and quite powerful, like end result. You can publish your release notes and have them contained in your app, so they always go hand in hand with the release pipelines. And if we now take a look at the pipeline, did it actually successfully run already? Oh, it did. It's never been this fast before. Okay. So now if we go here, let's see, it's like, I've never demoed this before because I haven't never had time to wait for the pipeline to finish. So let's see if I have now the updated release notes on this app. Sometimes it takes some time, and I might need to refresh this a couple of times. Or sometimes the app doesn't open at all. In those scenarios, I do this. I go to edit mode and see what we have here. And meanwhile, we are waiting for the spinner. You can think of some questions if you have any. Okay. Let's see if I open the release notes page. Okay, so that worked for some reason. The app didn't open in the play mode, but here in the edit mode, I have the updated release notes page in the test environment. I have the text in the title that I provided when I started the pipeline, and I have the contents of the wiki page here as a version history release notes for the app. And with that, it's time to thank the sponsors again. Thank you, sponsors. All right. That's my presentation. Any questions? Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I missed the beginning, but when your guy was editing the header,
Yeah.
what were you doing again? Did your changes clash with these? So last man in wins, or?
If I would be editing the same, so he was asking that if when Antti was editing the header, can I edit the header as well? And I can, but most likely we run into conflict.
You just conflict.
Yeah, and then I have to resolve that conflict. Not in the Canvas Studio, I have to use VS Code, and it's going to get hard. So don't edit the same controls, basically. I would recommend editing different screens, but you can edit same screen, but just don't touch the same controls.
Does it give you an error?
Yes, yes, visual error, yes, that doesn't tell you a whole lot currently, but I'm sure it's going to get better. Yeah, go ahead.
When you save it and synchronize, does it automatically publish it as a Canvas app?
No.
So how do you handle publishing then? Is it from
You just publish it as, if you want to publish it in that environment that you are editing it in, you just publish it after saving like you would do normally.
okay, so they are not connected.
No, publishing doesn't. Yeah, publishing is not connected to what happens in the repository. Yep.
Do you recommend it as a method even if you weren't collaborating with somebody else?
Yes, I would, because you have your source code in a safe place. So it doesn't matter even if someone deletes your environment by accident, you still have the code. Yep.
How reliable are you finding it so far? We've had a few problems.
I would use it in a customer case because it's still stored in the. You might run into conflicts and you might actually even break your Canvas app, but you can always restore it because you have the source code in the repository. And you can rely on the Git repository. So it's like the feature is in experimental, but use it with your own decision.
Do you know if there are any limits on number of users that can be editing at once?
No, I don't. That's an interesting question. Should we try it out?
We haven't managed to keep it stable past 5, which was why I was asking.
Okay. I haven't tried even with 5. Any other questions? Yeah.
Power Apps obviously has a version history on its own.
Yeah.
If you restore it to a previous version and then if you connect it to GitHub, does that create a new change set once you save, or what happens there?
Oh, you mean if I connect an existing app to?
Power Apps is the native version history.
Yes.
So every time you publish, it creates a new version.
Yep.
If you restore to a previous version and somebody else is working on it, for example, what happens? Does it create a new change set into the?
Oh, that's a good question. I think my guess is that it will create a new version in the repository with the older code.
Something with it.
Yeah.
Feeling like someone correct me afterwards if I'm wrong, but I don't think the native Power Apps version still works once you set up again.
Oh,
So
Yeah, that could be. It could be easily checked, but it's already lunch time. Any more questions? Let's go eat.